When was the last time you had moonshine? It's definitely an acquired taste. But whether you love it or hate it or never knew you could actually drink it, one thing is true. The guys who make it happen risk a lot to make that happen. And for over a decade, the show Moonshiners has shown us the hidden world of these bombastic bootleggers. We got to watch as they brainstormed, tested, and created their concoctions, all while dodging the long arm of the law. But recent events might be destroying the Moonshiners and their way of life forever. A slew of recent tragedies are taking out cast members left and right, and it's unclear whether the show will continue. So, has Tom Hedrick really passed away? Are Josh Owens and Craig Landry fighting for their lives? Is Moonshiners really done for? And were they all frauds to begin with? So let's get to the bottom of the curse that seems to have fallen over Appalachia. Before we begin, please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it. Subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. But now, grab yourself a cold glass of moonshine while you still can, because we're going to find out.
What happened?
Josh Owens. You might not expect guys who make their living brewing moonshine to do things by the books. And Josh Owens sure doesn't. He describes himself as a lumberjack, a biker, a moonshiner, a dirt track racer, a father, daredevil, hunter, and inventor. But one thing is clear, he enjoys living his life on the edge. But it seems like Josh's luck might be running out. In fact, recent news suggests that he's been involved in a catastrophic accident. So, will he survive? Before Josh was on Moonshiners, he was a professional motocross racer. Of course, he's had his fair share of close calls. In 2018, he was racing in Florida when the front tire of his bike exploded. Josh broke all but one of his ribs, punctured a lung, and broke his collarbone and shoulder blade. But he apparently did not learn his lesson about tempting fate, because as soon as he got healed, he got right back on that bike. And recently, Josh was competing in yet another motorcycle race, but something went horribly wrong, and he collided directly into a wall at very high speeds. Josh Owens broke his back, his neck, his arms, and his legs. Josh's life was hanging by a thread. He had to undergo multiple surgeries and spent weeks in the ICU. And what's possibly worse is he didn't have insurance. Now it's unclear whether he'll survive to see another season of Moonshiners. So what will become of Josh and his show? Craig Landry. Now Craig Landry is cool, calm, and collected. He's half scientist and half artist. Heck, he's the most innovative guy in the alcohol game since the dude who invented the Jell-O shot. So how did such a careful guy end up fighting for his life? Well, Craig has been in a horrific accident too, and it's unclear whether he'll make it to the next season of Moonshiners. In his free time, you see, Craig enjoys blowing off steam by riding an electric unicycle around his home in Louisiana. That's exactly what he was doing, taking what was supposed to be a relaxing ride around the neighborhood, when suddenly he lost consciousness. And when he awoke, he was lying in a bloody wreck. He felt like his face was broken. So what happened? Was he attacked or sabotaged? Well, Craig had to be airlifted to the hospital, where he was treated for his injuries. And Craig's suspicions were terribly correct. Doctors confirmed he quite literally broke his entire face. I know, it's a diagnosis straight out of a violent cartoon, itchy and scratchy. But for Craig Landry, it's reality. He had to have his entire jaw wired shut. So what happened? Craig's family speculated that he suffers from high blood pressure, and he may have passed out while riding. All we know for certain is it's unclear whether Craig will be able to recover in time for the next season of Moonshiners. Tom Hedrick. Some say moonshining is a young man's game, but nobody seems to have told Tom Hedrick. While many of his fellow brewers are still learning the ropes, Jim Tom has decades of experience to guide him. But now it seems all that has changed. So why did Jim Tom really leave Moonshiners? Well, Jim Tom recently turned 82 years old. Think about that when you know he began brewing moonshine at just 15 years old. Yeah, back in the 1950s, when moonshining was an even more serious offense than it is today. Over the years, he made his way up from a small-time supplier to brewing and selling his own brand of moonshine. But Jim Tom never got cocky. He's never failed to help out a fellow brewer, in a jam. So why did Jim Tom leave the show after season 6? Well, his health had been declining for some years. He was suffering from kidney cancer and receiving dialysis. But now we have to say the heartbreaking news that Jim Tom Hedrick has officially passed away at the age of 82. We can say for certain, Jim Tom lived a rich, full life, and he will be missed by many both inside and out of Appalachia. So I guess one question still remains: what will become of Moonshiners? Is Moonshiners ending? With all of these heartbreaking setbacks, it's unclear whether Moonshiners can remain on the air. And there's also something else very important. Some recent allegations claim that the show is faking everything. So let's get down to the bottom of this fake mess. Josh. Now Josh couldn't exactly just brush himself off. The guy was literally on death's doorstep, but he has been recovering from those injuries, and it seems he is going to pull through. But Josh is still recovering from those injuries. He recently celebrated his birthday with fans at a local watering hole. Word on the street is he's ready to rejoin Moonshiners when the time comes. Craig. Now Craig was hurt almost as badly as Josh, and he too nearly didn't survive his injuries. But it seems like Craig is healing pretty well. He was discharged from the hospital and has begun the long, slow process of healing. But as Josh and Craig recover from their accidents, there's some pretty bad news that threatens the entire life of the show. As recent whistleblowers claim the entire show is one big hoax. They say that no alcohol is actually being brewed, that the vats are actually just full of water. Local authorities said as much with this statement, saying, quote, "If illegal activity was actually taking place, the Virginia ABC Bureau of Law Enforcement would have taken action." And it all gets more complicated. The show's producers maintain that everything on the show is indeed real. They point out that because law enforcement can't use video as proof of guilt, they could technically be doing it for real, and nobody would be the wiser. Unfortunately, there's no way to be sure whether every shot that's broadcast is legitimate, without driving up there and having a sip yourself, that is. But one thing is for sure, these guys are real moonshiners that make real moonshine. I just want a taste of it someday. So what about the future of the show? Well, there is no release date for season 13 of Moonshiners, but there is some good news. Josh and Craig are ready to go, and as the cast mourns the loss of Jim Tom, they vow to preserve and carry on the wisdom he shared. Whether or not the show will go on, one thing is for certain. These guys are determined to carry on the moonshining way of life, and they're not about to let anybody stop them. So what do you think? Are you a fan of Moonshiners? Are you a fan of moonshine? Do you think it should be illegal? Have you ever tried the legal moonshine, the old smoky brand? It's not bad, but it's also not legit. So get in the comments and tell me all things moonshine and all things moonshiners. But hey, nobody incriminate yourselves in the comments. If you enjoyed our video today, please give it a thumbs up to help it circulate. Subscribe to our channel and come back often so we can keep telling you,
this is how we make the moonshine.
What happened?